Welcome to Politics Done Right. This is Egberto Willis, your host. We are going to be on point today. The Colorado River may be saved. Why am I saying that? Just kind of an off thing that got to me. I read an article on Common Dreams where they finally came to agreement to stop taking out more water out. Well, they're still taking out more water in the Colorado than the Colorado is replenishing itself. But, it's a lot better than before. And this year we had a superbly high amount of water that is going to be into the watershed of the Colorado. Why am I just talking about this before I get started? I don't know. Howard, you know
why you're talking about this. Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning, Howard? How are you doing this morning?
It's always a better day when the tin cans and string hold together.
And you know what? They've been holding together, and we couldn't be happier to see our tin cans hold. And folks that are listening out there, the magic man is in the house making sure it happens. But we need in order to keep these tin cans running, and we do it so efficiently, we need you guys to give us a shout and say, hey guys, I want to help keep those tin pans running. Anyhow, we're going to have a great show.
We got to keep the rust off the tin cans. That's for sure.
We got to keep
it with your donation at 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to make a donation and preserve KPFT's tin cans and string. And also extension number 2 to talk to Egberto on the air.
Yes, sir. Yes.
We had our phone system crash last night, and I had to reset it this morning when I got in. And we were most concerned about Johnny. How is Johnny going to call in if our phone system didn't work? That was the main concern. So, Johnny, where are you when we need you?
Good morning, Johnny.
Hey, Jack is here.
You know what? We have to say Johnny is the star because I mean, he ensures that we do the work necessary that an entire phone system is there for whom again? Johnny.
For Johnny, of course.
Absolutely. So, but anyhow, we're going to have a great show, folks. And first of all, I want to thank all of you for listening. I want to thank all of you for watching the show because, as you know, we have the program on the internet as well, video and audio. You can go to you can go to facebook.com/KPFT Houston, facebook.com/KPFT Houston. If you want to watch the show in video form, you can also go to politicsdoneright.TV, politicsdoneright.tv. That takes you to the YouTube channel. You can also tune in, folks. We want to be KPFT everywhere. So get that TuneIn app on your Android or Apple, and you can listen to us when you search for KPFT. Also, if you just go to our website, kpft.org, to listen to the stream, there are many ways to find us. And of course, call us at 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute, extension number 2 to donate. Let me do a quick pitch before I get the program started. I ask you to indulge me. You're going to get a full program, folks, with video, everything. But I just need to try to ask you so kindly to start raising money for the program on KPFT to support KPFT. All your funds go to KPFT. Exactly 0 comes to myself. Okay, I just want you folks, sometimes people sit back and just want you to know all of this goes to KPFT to keep all the mechanisms running, to keep the electric bills paid, to keep everything under wraps. If you can, I ask you so kindly, I'm going to be pitching for about 2 or 3 minutes and before I start the program. And I promise you to give you a full program. So do not disappear. Do not go away. There's a lot to talk about. Debt ceiling. There's a lot to talk about. Some other issues. So stick with us, please. I ask you so kindly. But if you can give a simple donation of $25, it makes you a voting member. If you can give a donation of $40, it makes you a voting member on our entire network, the Pacifica network, that of which KPFT is a part of, as well as KPFT. If you can contribute $100, you get one of the Politics Done Right t-shirts with the Politics Done Right insignia, as well as the KPFT logo. If you can give $250, I will take you out for coffee and we can discuss whatever you want to discuss. When you make that call, from what I understand yesterday, just tell them that you want to donate $250 for the show, because I just came up with this stuff on air, so they don't have the numbers that say coffee with Egberto when you call. So if you go ahead and call and say, hey, I want to have, I just want to give $250. If you do that, I will see it, and you say that it's for Politics Done Right. I'll see that, and I'll call you up and say, hey, we're heading out for some coffee. So 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute right now. 713-526-5738. If you contribute now, it'll pop up on my screen, and I'll be able to give you the appropriate thank you. And again, $25, $40, whatever you can. We are, thank you. So let me tell you again, folks. So it is important. It is important for our survival. And this goes for any station entirely dependent on funds and not dependent on any governmental agencies or dependent on commercials or anything like that. It is you who support us. And it is you that we owe our loyalty, the truthfulness that we come out with. We have no ulterior motives other than telling you things, the truth as it is. 713-526-5738, extension number 1. One more time, 713-526, extension number 1 to contribute. Once again, when you contribute, please remember to say it is for Politics Done Right, so that it'll be tagged appropriately. This show is responsible for raising $250 for every program. That's every hour we have to raise $250 on this show, which means $1,250 per week on this show for the duration of the fund drive. We are way behind, so I ask you so kindly once again to call 713-526-5738, extension number 1. You can also do the same at kpft.org. kpft.org. There are a lot of other gifts that we have. If you choose to donate, again, just remember to select Politics Done Right as the program that you are supporting so that we will be appropriately tagged. kpft.org. Hit the donate button, the first option and on the site. You can go ahead and give us whatever amount that you want. And if you'll do that now, I will see it on the screen, 713-526-5738, extension 1, or go to kpft.org. All right, let's go ahead and get busy with the program now. The title of the show today, Wallace and Glaude slams GOP attack on freedom, an evil chairman in a meek package. And notice I mentioned the Colorado River. Budget Committee Chair Arrington shows how unempathetic and evil he and his cohort are. And I think I'm going to play that one first. MSNBC host and former Republican Wallace, meaning Nicole Wallace, and Dr. Eddie Glaude did a great job in articulating the GOP's march away from freedom. And for my brothers and sisters who are of the Republican persuasion, whenever you hear me talk about Republicans, etc., I'm not talking about you. We are led by, we have leaders. And leaders, the reason folks are called leaders is the idea is that's their job to lead, and we have the hope and the faith and the trust in these folks that makes us follow them, not having every time to research what they're telling us. You know, I usually tell people who listen to this program, whatever I tell you, please feel free to go ahead and double check, triple check it. But there are some people who listen to the program and they do none of that because I have developed enough faith. They've developed enough faith in me that, well, what I've noticed, they've noticed that I've had a consistent level of veracity, and they hold that, and that's how I hold. When Howard tells me something about what's going on in the studio, etc., I've developed a trust that is going to occur, etc. That is how I see our politics today. We have developed a trust in folks. So when I'm on the attack, when you hear me talking about Republicans this or neoliberal Democrats that or whatever, I am never speaking about the rank and file folk. I'm talking about the leadership. I'm talking about the engines of our country that allows and foment these sort of behaviors throughout the masses, and depending on who we decide to trust. Why do I say this? Because I think it is time. We've got to come down hard on those who are creating this dissension in our country. When we go back to regular hours, there is a conversation that I had with a facilitator, engagement director at Unify, that's also trying to bring all of us together. That's going to go into some of that. But for now, trust me on this one. We have to get our act together. And our act together don't mean separating us. Our act together means finding a way that we, the rank and file, I'm not talking about the politicians. Most of them are crooks. I'm talking about we, the rank and file, have to smarten up ourselves and remember that we're in the same boat together. This debate on the debt ceiling, for me, it shows exactly who we are in many ways. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the first one now, and then we'll take it on the other side, because I want you to listen to how evil can sound very meek. They don't quite tell you the implications of their evil, but it's there. And ironically, what's going on with the debt ceiling right now, what Republicans want to do with the debt ceiling, cut costs and all of that, it sounds great. But the reality is the people it hurts the most are those who voted for this guy and those like this guy. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. As you know, the Republican Party has always prided itself in looking out for the freedom of people, the freedom to exercise their rights, etc. And we all know it has always been a bunch of bunk, but I have yet to see it expressed the way that a former Republican, now host on MSNBC, Nicole Wallace, listen to how she talks about who they really are now, and how Dr. Eddie Glaude expands on it, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Eddie, to build on some of that, the Republican Party's move away from anything resembling autonomy and freedom is the most underreported and potentially politically dramatic story of the last 5 years, right? To become a party that says out loud, they want to be right there in the OBGYN office with you. That was Republican senatorial candidate Dr. Oz. DeSantis, they want to be right there in the pediatrician's office with you as you grapple with whatever medical decisions your transgender daughter is making. They want to be inside the gynecologist's office, inside the pediatrician's office. They don't want to be inside the school while children are under their desks because they're in their third active shooter drill of the semester. They are done. They are done approximating anything resembling freedom.
Absolutely. It's almost as if the libertarian wing of the Republican Party has morphed, transformed into only one real serious liberty, and that is the liberty to hate, the liberty to grieve, to express grievance, to express fear and the like. So those elements of the traditional Republican Party that I grew up with, the corporatist wing, the libertarian wing, the values wing, and of course the nativist white supremacist wing, all of that has kind of collapsed into one kind of Frankenstein-like monster. But I think it's really important for us to understand what Basil said. Against the backdrop of the Four Freedoms speech, this is January 6th, ironically, 1941. He has to give voice to that because in 1939, the largest rally of Nazis occurred in Madison Square Garden, right in the United States. He has to give that speech against the threat that Hitler and Nazism represented, against the threat, the attack against labor, the attack against women. In other words, the freedoms that the Republican Party is articulating today, the freedom to control, the freedom to censor, the freedom to exploit, the freedom to menace, that aspect of America has always been its underbelly. It's just the current Republican Party has turned it over so we can see all the barnacles. And the question is, will we articulate our values in the face of it, just as FDR did? But we have to ask the question, what are those values?
I love exactly what he said. What are the values now? What are the values of the Republican Party that they speak about? What are the values of those who continue to follow a party that is inflicting this much harm on so many of its people? And I mean, this is off the subject, but we go into the debate. If they fold all the cuts that they want to make right now, it's also going to remove the freedom of their own people, as they are the ones that will be suffering the most, the people who vote for Republicans. Imagine that. Your own constituency, you decide, will get you. We'll take away your freedom. But we just won't tell you. By now, you probably figured out, I went ahead and let that continue to play. I pushed the wrong clip, but that's okay because it falls right into the other clip that I'm eventually going to play. But since I went ahead and played that one, the important thing about this clip that I wanted to put out second, but instead it went first now, is the following. We have a lot of our Republican leaders doing something called projection. We project that we want freedom, but we take it away. Right here in Texas, the county attorney who you heard I had interviewed last week here on KPFT, just sent out a notice that saying the bills are passing, the bills that are taking away the freedom that Harris County has to really run its own elections as it sees fit. These are going one after the other. The freedoms are being taken away. The freedom to choose what your kids can read in school. The freedom to learn about the reality that has occurred in our country and elsewhere. The freedom to have critical thinking. I want all of you to realize, for those of you right now who sit back and say, yeah, the Republicans are hitting up the gays and the Republicans are bringing back the morality of what this country is supposed to be and all of that. Remember that those things are at the expense of what other people want to do, what other people believe in, what other people want, even in as much as we call this freedom. So we ought to learn exactly where we are under these concepts. Okay, before I go to the actual video that I wanted to put out there, because that one is an important, even so much more important with regards to the debt ceiling. I want to ask all of you to support the program. Give us a call at 713-526-5738. I want to ask Howard if he can give us, we have this offer for doing the tour around Memorial Park, etc. Can you do that for me, please, Senor Howard?
I sure can. Our Mr. McKinney, the man who brings you the Houston Hour Friday evenings at 6 o'clock, is extending his open air bus for an open air bus tour of, let's see here, we have a 1.5 hour tour of the historic Herman Park, also Museum District, Texas Medical Center, on Houston's only open-air school bus, all for a donation of $75 to KPFT. Now imagine, maybe you've got a first date coming up. I mean, it's been a long time since I've done that, but maybe you got a first date coming up, and that would just be the coolest thing to take your date on this thing. It's a once-a-month tour. It's a whole lot of fun. Mr. McKinney is totally entertaining. This guy never stops, so you're going to love him. It's a $75 donation to KPFT, and that will get you on the bus. Go to kpft.org to find out more about it.
713
for the open air bus tour.
713-526-5738, extension number 1 to contribute, extension number 2 to come on air. 713-526-5738. So anyway, folks, so please also, if you want a Politics Done Right t-shirt, that would be $100 contribution. And if you want to go to have some coffee with Egberto, I'll take you out for some coffee. That's a $250 contribution. Please go. And by the way, if you call the number, they won't know what you're talking about the $250. Just say, I want to donate $250 for Politics Done Right. And we'll go out for some cafe. Likewise, you can go to KP. Yes, sir.
That should be a $500 donation, man.
Oh man, well, he say I'm selling myself cheap, man. But hey,
well, yeah, you are at $250. That's way below Egberto. That needs to be a grant.
Oh, my head just grew like 10 centimeters, man. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, make sure your headphones are staying on. So
713-526-5738, extension number 1. Folks, please give us a call there. If you go to kpft.org, there are also a lot of other gifts that we can give. That we have a whole lot of stuff. I don't have the list of all the gifts that we have, but there are a lot of different thank you gifts that we give you. 713-526-5738, extension number 1, or go to kpft.org, select the donate button, and make sure to select Politics Done Right as the program you're supporting. All right, I'm going to get busy with the second video. Very important here. Let's see, Jack. Let's bring Brother Jack, who is there every morning handling the phones for us. Thank you so kindly for being in the house, Brother Jack.
God bless this man.
Good morning, Banner's Hole. I'm trying to get them R's to roll on your name there.
Well, Jack, I'm a nice guy, but I don't think you got this one. We're going to have to work on the Egberto.
Egberto.
All right, you did it.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I read your little thing this morning, and I mean, I'm basically a lefty anarchist. So I'm looking at the conservative writers. They've sold the people to the corporation, as far as I'm concerned. They're not doing anything for the working poor or the poor, and probably even less for their constituents.
Yes.
They want to run the country like it's going to be a business. And right now, their business model is privatize the profits and socialize the cost.
You just nailed it.
Yeah. It kind of disgusts me. They're not doing anything for a human need, people that have human needs that cost their bottom line. They're not going to do it.
Yes.
Corporations just have no conscience when it comes to the people. So America, how does it feel to be owned by big oil and big pharma, big money? I mean, all these politicians are drunk on their own free speech money, all that free speech money that Citizens United gave them. So they're not being true to the people. They're being true to the people up top.
Jack, when you and I go out for some coffee, we're going to have there's some stuff I'm going to want to talk to you about. Let me just tell you something here, because I want to jump on your back as far as what you just said there, because what we have to try to do, right? Because and that's why I can't wait to play the interview that I did with the director of engagement for Unify, Pedro Silva, because what's really occurring is that people, people don't know. Most people don't know that we are currently being slaves to the corporations, and they find themselves defending the corporations. They don't realize we're being slave to the rich, so they find themselves defending the rich, because the rich has used a magical thing in making everybody believe that we live in a meritocracy and that everybody has equal access to success. And those who are successful, it's because they had something innate within them that caused that. And what I've learned over time, and, I suffered from the same indoctrination myself into believing that there's something great about those who within our economic system, within these systems, got so much ahead of everybody else. And I always wondered, wow, are they so great? And in doing the work that I did, when I worked for NASA, when I worked for other corporations and work among some of these peoples that were right there at the top echelon, my thing was like, these people are just like me. I'm talking about levels of competency, but they were just the chosen one. And people have a hard time realizing that we are not a meritocracy. And when we can get that inculcated into people's minds, people would start having more value in themselves, because the value is already there. It's just that too many don't know that value is there. You get what I'm saying, Brother Jack?
Yeah, I understand that completely. I mean, it's crazy that they vote for the people that are basically enslaving them, and that's crazy to me. And it's just it's the media, the one-sided media being owned by just a few people. We can't get the message that we've been had.
Yeah. But Jack, I got to get to the video so that I get enough time. So let me go to the video. I appreciate your commentary as usual, and I want to hail Brother Eric Hayes, who's on the screen right now. And the interesting thing about it is, Brother Hayes is a strict conservative, and the question that he asked is something that I wish everyone, liberal and conservative, asked. Moderna CEO, $400 million? How did they get their money? Thank you, Eric. A person who generally defends these folks asked the very important question. But I want to go ahead and play this next clip here that I prepared last night, because this is the most important part of the program right now. Folks, while you're doing this, please remember to call 713-526-5738 to contribute to the program. We can't do it without you. I want to show you the intransigence of the Republican Party, specifically the House, when it comes to negotiating for this debt ceiling debate. The truth of the matter is, as I've said several times before, Democrats should not negotiate. They should just go ahead and invoke the 14th Amendment and let the Supreme Court attempt to overturn it and crash the economy. It would then prove that Republican intransigence and that they've chosen to put politicized judges that don't read the Constitution literally, in this case, would have caused whatever damage has occurred. But let's go ahead and listen to Jody Arrington, who is the chair of the Budget Committee. I mean, it's amazing how, with a nice and calm voice, sounding as if he's reasonable, how evil he is. And I'm going to explain that, because as he speaks, one would just think this is just simple negotiation. But no, this is the instantiation of evil covered with a facade of platitudes. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
The president said he's willing to cut spending by more than $1 trillion. He said that this morning, but he also wants Republicans to consider raising revenue. That has been a non-starter for Republicans, but will you reconsider?
No, because you couldn't get tax policies and tax revenues in the Senate bill. We certainly weren't going to put it in the House bill. So, number one, it's not on the table for discussion. Number two, taxes right now would only be passed on to consumers in higher prices. So we would exacerbate inflation. And our economy is growing now at just 1.1% GDP. That's down over the last 3 quarters. We're heading into recession. The last thing we want to do is add another tax. The president and Democrats passed out of the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, taxes on businesses, taxes on energy, taxes on investment. This is not the time to put a tax on our economy or on working families. The president, again, needs to deal with the proposal that passed the House. And our country is spending at wartime levels, Martha, almost 25% relative to GDP. We haven't spent that much since we invaded Normandy. I think the American people understand that the cost of living crisis that they're suffering with is as a result of spending, not because we have low taxes. The fact is we had record taxes going into COVID, and we had another record tax revenue year in 2021.
The White House sources familiar with the negotiations are telling our Rachel Scott the latest proposal would keep non-defense and defense discretionary spending flat from 2023 to 2024, and the Republicans want to increase defense spending. That's despite $45 billion more than President Biden had proposed last time.
Well, let's give some context to the discretionary budget. Our federal government is 40% bigger today than it was going into COVID. Secondly, the president was the lead negotiator in 2011 for a 10-year spending cap deal, and he was doing that in the context of a debt ceiling negotiation. So this isn't unprecedented. Even the president's own budget, if you look at his 10-year budget resolution proposal that he introduced about a month ago, he has $2.7 trillion in discretionary cuts. If you annualize that, that's over $200 billion a year. We're talking about going back to $130 billion. That's what we were spending as a nation discretionary just 6 months ago. So this is more than reasonable, but we have to get back to pre-COVID, pre-inflationary spending. We've got to right size and rein in this bureaucratic bloat that we've pulled out of COVID, and we've got to deal with that legacy and efficiency.
I want you to notice something. Remember what this budget wants to do. This budget wants to cut discretionary spending for SNAP, spending for childcare, spending for a whole lot of stuff, Veterans Affairs, etc., because that's the only place the cuts that they want can actually come from, given that what they want to do is not cut things like defense, etc. So when asked about the taxes, what's his answer? That wouldn't pass the Senate, so we didn't even think about putting it into the House bill that we passed. But worse, he simply said outright, that is not on the table. In other words, having the wealthy who have gouged the American people put back some of the money that they stole legally from the American people, he's saying that's not on the table. So we'll just starve the children. We'll just make sure that you have to get less in SNAP. We'll just make sure that even as those people who got PPP, etc., didn't have to do any superb type of qualifications, we want those few people who are on food stamps, who make very little, to prove that you are having to go to work. Even those, they have some of these programs that already have work requirements on it, but they want to make it even more stringent. We got to hurt the poor because we know that the poor are always trying to get over on the rich. Really? Come on, folks. It's time for us to wake up now. So, he claimed the inflation, the spending is what we need to cut. It's spending that caused inflation, spending that caused these issues. He forgot to tell you, all the tax cuts that they have given to the wealthy folks, that is money that wasn't recirculated into the economy. If we really wanted to help the economy, we put those monies into the hands of people who create demand, and that demand forces factories to open, etc. It's a long macroeconomic argument to make there. But the thing that he says, what he is implying is that unlike what Katie Porter has shown mathematically, that inflation wasn't caused mostly by supply chain problems. Inflation wasn't caused mostly by shortages of labor, etc., even though we do have shortages of labor, which could be mitigated by letting more people into the country. But inflation was caused simply by corporate greed, and the numbers are there to show it. Unfortunately, as we are having these debates on TV, when this person says, we are not going to increase, that Biden has an increase in inflation and that somehow they're spending too much, that the mainstream media doesn't say, for 40 years, we have underpaid Americans, and we are now paying through governmental services for what the private sector refused to do, pay a living wage, as they manipulated and kept the profits. We don't have the main media, when the mainstream media interview these charlatans, we don't have them come out and tell the American people the truth. So a soft-spoken Jody Arrington, chair of the Budget Committee, seems to be reasonable because he talks calmly and he talks as if Biden is doing something wrong. And as opposed to coming back to say, you evil being, you're trying to starve and take Similac out of the mouths of kids. You're trying to take food out of the mouths of kids just to give those rich people a delta increase in their richness. That is evil. Can we not see it? That goes beyond income and wealth inequality. That actually borders on evil, as you're taking food out of the mouths of people after the wealthy has had record profits, record earnings on our backs. They didn't create those earnings. They didn't create those profits. We did. When we paid inflated prices for gasoline, when we paid inflated prices for eggs and everything else, that didn't go to the farm that laid the eggs. That didn't go to the meat factory. That didn't go to all these other low-line workers in these companies. It all went to the profits of corporate beings and those who benefit from said profits. Now, asked about defense budget, he said, you guys, we're talking about austerity here, cutting back. This is what Martha Raddatz tells him. We're talking about cutting back. How comes you want $45 billion more on defense than it's being requested by Biden? You want Biden to cut the food out of the mouth of kids. You want Biden to cut the veterans, but you want to inflate the defense budget even more. But wait a minute, didn't we just see a 60-minute article that talks about how the defense industrial complex are overcharging all of us, a $300 part for $10,000, signing a contract to build an airplane, and we can't build the parts ourselves. We must go back to the company, because even as we paid for the research to build the airplane, to build all these things, we still have the patents, but we can't control the internals of building the parts. People, the evil behind this budgetary process, they're holding up that we have allowed Republicans to hold us hostage, is our doing, because we put them there. We may have to make a deal here, since Biden is scared to use the 14th Amendment. He'll only use it at last resort, right? So let's assume he's not going to use it. But I want to warn you of something. Democrats had the lame duck session where they could have passed this. Bernie Sanders and many others begged them. We knew this was going to happen. We knew that these clowns, these charlatanes, would have held us hostage. We knew it. We knew they would have held the economy hostage because they don't care. They don't care that if they crash the economy, that it's the people that are going to suffer the most are the people who vote for them, that they've lied to continuously over and over again. But Democrats dropped the ball. They could have, in the lame duck session of the last year, simply passed the bill. They simply had to say debt ceiling increase and sent it to the Senate. And when the Senate said we're not going to go with 63 votes, we'll get the 60 votes, they just say, okay, for this particular bill, we're going to kill the filibuster, pass the debt ceiling. It's too important for the country. But again, it's like many times, one would like to say Democrats don't learn. It's not that they don't learn. It's not that they're cowards, also the leadership. It's that they are a part of the cabal. They're a part of the game where the lower classes pay for it all. The middle class pay for it all because they don't want themselves. I'm talking about a particular sect in the Democratic Party as well. They don't want the masses to get too much power either because they feel that given that they're serving the same masters just with a little bit in difference in values, we can't allow them to get too strong. Folks, this debt ceiling debate should not have been. It is because of because of the willful timidity of the Democratic leadership back in 2022. Now we're paying the price with the stresses that many are under. It's going to they're going to work out something. But as usual, you know who will pay the price? The poor and the middle class, always sacrificed by all. I hope you get the gist of what I was trying to say there. I did that late last night. I hope you get the gist of what I'm trying to say because the concept is extraordinarily important. We have to make sure. Folks. We've got to make sure we're doing this stuff right. Anyhow, I want to give a big thank you to El Senor Anthony. Anthony, drop me a line, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. We will be going to have some cafe. We're going to sit down and rap and have some coffee. Let's arrange a good time to meet. Thank you so kindly for your support. Folks, we're still way behind for the week. We would love more people to take me up on that $250 let's have coffee with Egberto deal, because I tell you what, if we can do that, we help the station, we keep real information flowing. We keep the reminding all of us that we are already empowered to make the changes that we need to make. So thank you so kindly, Anthony, for your support. We can't do. Go ahead, my brother Howard.
As he was talking, as Jack was talking earlier, I was reminded that he was talking about the media being owned by the big corporations and what gets out.
Yes.
It's very important to think about when you go to donate to KPFT, because we don't have corporate sponsors. We're not subject to that sort of thing. We bring you the unvarnished truth. Sometimes it's very unvarnished, and sometimes you won't like what we say, but you don't have to agree with us, but we do bring it to you. It's freedom of speech, freedom of radio, freedom of corporate influence. I'll say that. Now, I work for the big guys. I work for iHeart, and I know how that works. If the big guys don't like it, it don't get on the air. Here, if we don't like it, well, it gets on the air anyway. So there you go. Support KPFT. Support this very vital community radio station. 713-526-5738. And you know what? Our friend Johnny has called in because he heard the call and said, man, I got to call Egberto this morning. So Johnny, let's get you in here.
Johnny, you're hot. Hey, Johnny.
Oh, hold on. I couldn't hear what you were saying to Howard, so I had to turn the radio back on. Hold on.
No problem, Johnny.
Johnny is back.
Johnny is back. Come on, Johnny. What's up, my brother?
soundboard is reverting back to its old ways. Anyway, I want to share with you how appropriate the discussion today. A few minutes ago, before I called you, I wanted to share with you and our wonderful KPFD audience, a few minutes ago, the contents of an angry voicemail I left over at the people at KUHF, the NPR affiliate here in town. As I was waking up, I heard a soundbite they played of a Nebraska state senator, I believe, who was smugly informing the reporters about his party, his people, his tribe accomplishing some kind of legislation to do with gender identity because they want to protect the children. His words, we are aiming to protect the children, protecting the children. And I let KUHF know to remind them, since they obviously did not remind their audience, that these are the same people at the national level who had recently voted, all of them voted, in the United States House of Representatives to pass a bill in their way of trying to force Biden and the Democrats to agree to their hostage taking on the so-called debt ceiling. They voted for 14 items, 5 of which have to protect the children, like kicking 300,000 kids out of child care and Head Start, and evicting 400,000 families from their homes, and kicking 1 million mothers and children off of WIC nutritional assistance programs, and eliminate Pell Grants for 80,000 students, and reducing grant funding for millions of others, and finally denying 750,000 workers job training and employment services. How does this protect the children?
Johnny?
And I told KOHF, and where were you guys journalistically? Where did you challenge? Where did you push back? Where did you provide context for your listeners at KOHF in real time and allowing that soundbite of that Nebraska Republican to get out? Where was the challenge?
Johnny.
And I told them, oh, suck.
Johnny, I think that is such an important statement there. Where was your pushback? And let me tell you something that I learned. I'm not a trained journalist. I'm just a self-made journalist after I gave up on working. Okay. And what I learned is that in journalism school, that is what they learn. Okay. They learn that your opinions are not, if you're not an investigative reporter, your opinions are not a part of the story. So what actually occurs is they ask the question, you answer it. What they are supposed to do immediately is go to the opposition and say, how does what John said square with what you believe, et cetera, and supposedly get all views out there, and then make the people who are listening determine, they got all the information out, and as an intelligent citizenry, we're supposed to get it. Unfortunately, the old style journalism doesn't work anymore, because what has happened is the corporate class, the plutocracy, has learned how to game that honesty. So I have a hard time, right? I give the mainstream media, just as you did there, a very hard time, because they are derelict in their duty, as we know they shouldn't be now. The old time journalism doesn't work because the plutocracy has figured out how to game it. And that's why you heard what you heard. You heard one half of the story. You didn't hear the other half that made intelligent people realize exactly what you said. In other words, Johnny, you gave the whole litany of what the Republican Party represents right now, as far from a budgetary standpoint, that hurts people. After he said, protect the children. Wait, hold on, Johnny. After he says, protect the children, she should have immediately switched to another reporter that says he is not protecting the children because of what all the litany of things Johnny just said. Got me?
Yeah, you have the mind of an engineer. You are more than qualified to serve as a journalist and correct these people in real time. And I would add that the people at KUHF, as well as NPR, the network NPR, I've mentioned this the other day, I think to you or to Steve Hunter. I tell them constantly about context and about updating their Rolodex, or whatever the version they have nowadays in the modern Rolodex. How about Richard E. Wolff? And there's a whole
Yes.
bunch of economists I gave them a list of, but not a peep out of them.
Yeah, and that is important. What you just said is important. Johnny, like myself, has a lot of passion for this, and that is because we actually care. We care. It's and so what you're saying, Johnny, is so real. They need to update their Rolodex instead of going to the same people that we've learned to accept their lies, if you will. To put it bluntly, we've learned to accept their lies. Anyway, Johnny, anything else you want to say before I jump to the continuing the subject?
Yeah, they're willing to go to the late Pete Peterson, turning in his grave. They'd rather go to him for economic advice and go to old sound bites rather than to a very alive Richard D. Wolf in Manhattan, or Bernie Sanders, or Ilhan Omar, or you.
Well, thank you, my brother. Johnny, we could not, hey, Johnny, ask Howard. Howard made sure that the phones were there so that we could get our day. I'm going to start calling your segment the Daily Johnny. Is that okay with you? The Daily Johnny?
The Johnny Pump.
The Johnny Pump. Hey, Howard, which one do you prefer? Howard, which one do you prefer? The Daily Johnny or the Howard Pump or the Johnny Pump?
The Daily Johnny would do for me. That would be just fine. Johnny, we were concerned because our phones were out last night, and we were concerned about how you were going to call in.
Really?
Yeah. That was spoken between some other folks, and I said, well, how's Johnny going to call in if our phones don't work? So I had to get down here and fix them right away.
Thank God for you, and God help me with these termites. All my neighbors get attacked by termites. God.
Hey, let me tell you, go fix your termite, Johnny. Take one quick break and fix your termite. Let's go. Thank you, Johnny, for calling. Love you, brother. Let's go ahead and get to Tag now. Come on in, Tag. How are you doing, sir?
Good, Egberto. How about you?
I am doing great, and especially since we're hearing from you, brother. Talk to me.
Well, I had a comment about your water in the Colorado River.
Yes, sir. Talk to me.
So I love the phrase "let this sink in." Remember that one?
Yes.
Anyway, when I heard that announcement yesterday about the Colorado River Agreement, Biden had negotiated that.
Yes.
And once again, Biden has done something else that nobody is going to ever remember or think about when they start talking about how terrible it is. Especially, I'm speaking loud and clear to Johnny here because Johnny's a good guy, but he doesn't appreciate what Biden has been doing for this country, like a lot of other people don't appreciate what Biden has been doing for us. And this river agreement is just another one of those things that people need to take note of that Biden is doing for us. Biden did the shipping container thing. He did something with the railroads. You can go down a long list of stuff he's done for us. But as soon as it happens, the news media changes and everybody forgets about all these things that he's done for our country while he's been president. I think it's time to make note of this stuff.
Now, let me first, Tag. I want to tell you that I'm going to agree with you, and I don't. The truth of the matter is, I don't even think Johnny disagrees with you. As Johnny and I are both. Well, all of us here, pretty much, I think, are probably on the left side of the spectrum. I think our concern is that there has been so much that has been left undone for 40 years since the inception of supply side economics. That there's so much to do, and unless we keep the pressure on Biden and others, these things don't get done. But you are absolutely right that for decades, they've been trying to come up with a compact with the water in the Colorado, and they had not been able to do it. Biden did it. For a long time, they've been trying to come up with an infrastructure bill to really start working on our dilapidated infrastructure. Trump and others would talk. Well, Trump would talk about infrastructure week every week. Biden actually got it done. You're absolutely correct. Moving on so Biden did. You can listen to some of my programs where you would hear me say Biden has been a lot more progressive than I possibly could have expected him to be. So you hit on something, and I think you're right about that. Eric Hayes is saying Afghanistan. Afghanistan would not have worked out any better for any president. If you want to go tit for tat, I let you recall Lebanon and Reagan. Lebanon and Reagan. He didn't lose just 30. I don't remember how many we lost in that mishap inside of Ukraine, but we did lose 200 something folk in Lebanon. So those are things. So Tag, I just want to give you kudos for bringing that comment and sort of bringing some reality as well to all of us. And I don't think that is in any disagreement with Brother Johnny. Go ahead, sir.
So anyway, I'll be one to stand up and say I think that Biden, considering everything, has done a great job. Especially when you talked about the Afghanistan withdrawal. That was all a treaty or a memorandum, whatever it was, that Trump signed.
Right.
So and Biden just kind of did the best he could with what he had there to work with, and his hands are really tied on that deal. They didn't let him get in and start working in the government like normally they do. And then when he got that, he had that dropped in his lap the first thing. And so many things, and I think you kind of were speaking of that. So many things, our presidents are from with situations from the previous administrations that they have to deal with.
Tag, I don't, you got your piece out. Tag, you got your piece out, which is a necessary statement that you've made relative to Biden. So I want to thank you for saying that, because again, I think it needed to be said as well. I think it needs to be said as well. Now we need to get some progressives in throughout the government so that we can recover all that's been lost over the last 40 years. Thank you so kindly, Tag. Call earlier so we can spend some more time. All right.
Thanks, Edberto. You have a good day.
You have a great one, sir. Okay, we are coming up on time right now. I want to ask everybody again. I want to thank Anthony, first of all. Drop me a line, Anthony, at kpft@politicsdoneright.com, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Thank you so kindly. We'll go out and have some coffee. And folks, I need you to call 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738, extension number 1. Go ahead and $100 for a T-shirt, $40 to be a member. And by the way, you can pay all of this over time. $250 to have coffee. If you call in, they won't know about having coffee with Egberto. So just tell them I'm giving $250. When I see that, I'll set you up. We're going for coffee. And by the way, 713-526-5738, extension numero 1 to donate. Go to kpft.org, hit donate and the drop down box. And do remember, please select Politics Done Right as the show you're supporting. It doesn't come to me. Go to KPFT, but they just know that this show is earning its keep. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.